Everyone has moments in life they can't just stop thinking about. They can be embarrassing things, like that one time you face planted in front of a group of teenagers, or something amazing like the first time you hosted your family for the holidays. And on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, hosted by me, Keke Palmer, and presented by BMW, we know to savor the good memories and let go of the bad. And one thing everyone remembers fondly is their first time behind the wheel of a BMW. So come join me and BMW this summer as we explore pop culture moments and topics you just can't stop thinking about on Baby, This is Keke Palmer, sponsored by BMW, the ultimate driving machine.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room? It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th.
We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Welcome back to Little Cuts, our weekly mini-sode where we dig into the things that we've been watching recently, and we have watched a lot. I'm Terry.
Oh, and I'm Mary Beth, and this week we are both talking and clawing our way out of Sundance.
So much Sundance.
So much Sundance. I haven't been sleeping a ton because I've been watching movies, which is a very cool thing. I will acknowledge that it's a very cool thing, but boy oh boy, when you have to both watch them and write about them, brain empty. I have no brain power left.
Same. I feel like all I've been doing is taking notes and then writing.
I know. That's how I feel too. And like, I saw over 20 and I'm pretty impressed with over 20. There are people who have watched, every year this happens. It's like, I watched 45. I'm like, how? How can you watch that many things? Like, I understand people get screeners ahead of time, but still, like, they don't get screeners that far ahead of time. And that's just a lot of things in my brain. And I definitely could have watched more, but I took a lot of breaks because, like, there was no way. I just couldn't. I needed trash between, like, the really depressing and fucked up things I was watching. I was like, I need a break.
Yeah, I mean, there were a couple times during this festival where I just put down my laptop as like, I am going to just watch this one because I definitely needed some breaks from taking notes and writing copious amounts of reviews. And there were a couple of some really good non-genre movies that I ended up seeing this year too, and I was really happy to see that. Yeah, I'm really happy that I allowed myself to watch them.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Because, like, obviously with Dread Central, like, last year I was able to watch a bunch for reviews because I was covering for a bunch of places, but I was just doing Dread Central, so it was, like, only the horror ones that I had to, like, kind of cover. So it was pretty limiting in, like, terms of reviews, which was actually good because then I could watch a bunch of other ones and not feel obligated to write about them, but still see them. So that was nice. Because there was some good stuff that wasn't genre this year.
Should we just talk a little bit about?
Yeah,
I mean,
let's
not
just
a whole
start.
lot,
Let's just
but like,
dive in.
I would like to talk about it. Am I okay?
Yes, Am I Okay? The one movie I watched under Sundance that wasn't like horrifically upsetting. It's only minorly upsetting.
It's really good though. It's a queer story about a woman who is in her 30s. I think she is 30 or 31, and she is just now coming to terms with the fact that she is a lesbian. And at the same time, her best friend that she's been friends with for forever is taking a promotion in England and moving across the sea. And so it's about that, and it's about her trying to determine what it means to be gay in your 30s when you haven't had the sort of like teenage love, 20s love that like I think most people go through, or a lot of people go through. And so it was really emotional, and it was really funny. I've seen a lot of people call it slight and fluffy, and I get that, but I also don't think that they have gone through what this story is about, because it was not slight or fluffy for me.
I think it was fluffy. I think it was like pretty sincere. And I think it's also inspired by there's a documentary called Tig that Tig Notaro and her wife, who co-directed this movie, talk about at the beginning. And I haven't seen it, but it's very personal. It's based on their own experiences of coming out when they're older. And like,
yeah,
I think it's like, I don't know, it's not a tragic movie, but I think I like that about it being a little bit more quiet, but an important experience that like not everyone comes out when they're kids or like when they're teenagers and gets to experience like that kind of thing. Some people live a long time and like have sex with people they don't really like having sex with because they don't know what's going on. And like, I don't know, I really, really enjoyed it. Yeah. Dakota Johnson's in it as the queer character. She's amazing.
She's really good.
And Sonoya Mizuno, who I am fucking obsessed with, is her friend.
I'm obsessed with her after watching this.
Oh, she's so good. She was in Devs, which was like that Alex Garland show from last year.
Oh, yeah.
She was one of the robots in Ex Machina.
She was, yeah.
She's incredible. I love her so much. And I usually have only really seen her in dramas and stuff. So it was really cool to see her as like in a kind of a friend comedy drama sort of thing. Yeah, I really.
And Kiersey Clemons.
Kiersey Clemons is in it. Try-ons. So I really enjoyed that movie too. And then another one that was non-genre that I just watched today, Emily the Criminal.
Oh yeah,
that made me so uncomfortable. And Aubrey Plaza's in it as a woman who has so much student loan debt, which I'm very familiar with because I have so much student loan debt, and she's trying to get a job so she can pay off her fucking student loans and live. And she gets kind of sucked into underbelly of crime in LA as she's like gets more and more desperate to make money, and it like is unfortunately hits very close to home of like the absolute desperation you go through to pay your student loans. And Aubrey Plaza is incredible, and it's much more intense than I thought. So I liked that one quite a bit.
It was really good. It was, I think this is one of those times where you see it and you think, gosh, she's not just that sort of plucky, sarcastic character actor. You know what I mean? Like, she has depth, and I don't think a lot of people give her credit for that, but she was really good in this movie.
She was like take no shit kind of person, and I loved her. Like, she was like aggro, but I loved it because she was like calling people. Basically, like half of the movie, she's calling people out on their bullshit with like the system. And at one point, she's like, "You're trying to fucking hire me as an unpaid intern for 6 months? Like, fuck you." And I was like, you know what? I appreciate this because this is all the things you want to say to people, but you feel like you have to be polite. But she just like she's always saying "fuck you," and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I did too. That was really good.
What genre stuff did you really enjoy in like the midnight, but also just like the non-midnight section? Because there was a bunch of genre stuff outside of the midnight section.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite movie of the fest, and I've been very vocal about this on Twitter, was You Won't Be Alone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is billed as a witch movie, and it is a witch movie. There are witches in it. They shapeshift. And I think the trailers and a lot of pre-release stuff have kind of focused on Noomi Rapace, probably because she's, I think, the biggest name attached to it. But like, she's in it very briefly, and this is a witch movie that like is a lot more complex than the let's all be witches and leave the society, which I feel like is a trope that we've seen a lot of in witch movies. And this one is more about using the witch as an outsider to kind of force the viewer to see and recontextualize life in its horror, in its abject inhumanity, but also at its like highest.
Yeah.
And it really made me emotional.
You cried watching it, and then I was watching it the second screening, and I was like, why am I leaking? Like, why is my face leaking? Like, This is not a movie I thought was gonna like break my heart. And someone compared it to a Terrence Malick movie, and it is very much like Tree of Life, Terrence Malick vibes, and that's not a bad thing. It's like, it's a very different perspective on horror and witches that I really appreciate. It's not just like a witch fucking shit up. It's a witch trying to understand how to be a person, like you said, and but there's also some really interesting gender stuff, because like the woman who becomes a witch is born a woman, and she shapeshifts into a woman, but then she also shapeshifts into a man and like learns what it's like to be a man, and the pressures put on a man, and what it's like to have sex as a man. And there's some really interesting stuff about gender and like understanding gender identity, and that was really fascinating to kind of see them mess with that a little bit. Another thing I didn't really expect is kind of the examination of gender identity in the film. It's beautiful.
I loved it. And it's one of those movies that like, it's not going to be for everyone. In fact, I don't think it will be for most people, unfortunately. But like, if you let yourself like get like wrapped up in it, and it just mesmerized me to the point where at one point when I was looking back at my notes to start to write my review on it, I realized that I had stopped writing. And it's because like I was just so transfixed on what was happening on screen. And by the end of the movie, I've mentioned this on Twitter, and I told you, Mary Beth, the last line made me like just like burst into tears. And it's because it felt like the emotion was like welling up for like an hour and 48 minutes. And then it was finally like that release. And it was just like, blah. And I started like bawling.
Yep.
It was such a wild experience. I was like, it's a good line. It's a good last line, but it's not like something that's just going to like, I don't know. For some reason, it just was that ending kind of pop of that bubble.
It's like that note it's ending on where you're like, huh. It like encapsulates everything really well.
Yeah.
Like the experience of living, which is weird. Like how they captured that in like two words. I don't know. That was really... I'm always so impressed when people can do that. I'm like, why are you so smart? How your brain do that?
But yeah, a brilliant movie. There's no way in hell it's not going to be in my top 10.
It probably will be in mine too. I wonder who's going to pick it up.
I mean, it has a release date in April.
Oh, it does?
I think
Never mind. Mm-hmm. Where have I been? I work for fucking horror news site. What's wrong with me? Yeah, it's got like Hagazusa vibes, if you guys like Hagazusa, but this one's more tender.
It's focus features.
Oh, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's got Hagazusa vibes, but like more tender than Hagazusa. Like less cruel. But it's got kind of like those witchy, like that kind of thing.
Yeah, and kind of like a focus on emotions and like vibes in some way over like telling a traditional narrative.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So I have two kind of neck and neck for my favorites of the fest. One of them is Something in the Dirt, the new Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead movie that like fucked me up hardcore. It is so complicated and weird, and like it's them at their best. It's them going back to their DIY indie horror route. It's like Resolution and The Endless, like those movies. It's got that vibe. It's the two of them in an apartment. It's like three of them made it. Like two of them in an apartment talking about supernatural and aliens and metaphysics and geocaching and crystals and being a person and orcas eating people. Like it's basically two guys shooting the shit and like trying to stave off loneliness. They're two guys who live by themselves who have not a lot going on for them, and they find each other and find purpose in this weird phenomenon that happens in one of their apartments. And it's gorgeous. It's got like found footage vibes to it, which is like, of course. It's got all these really cool layers to it that I really appreciated, and how they deal with like unreliable narrators telling the truth and like messing with those lines and never really knowing like what actually happened and what didn't. And it's just like incredible filmmaking. I don't even know how else to describe it. Like it's an experience. Like I definitely ate an edible before I watched it, and I was like, I am in the vibe. I am in the zone. And it was something special, I will say. Benson and Moorhead, like, I can't. They're so talented.
They're so talented.
And like, I am both very excited for them and so sad that they're doing a Disney movie, Marvel. But like, look, get your bag. And obviously they still care about their roots. You know what I mean? Like, they made Synchronic and then went back to something, you know? So I feel like they're never gonna, like, let go of that. In my heart, I feel that. They also directed episodes of Archive 81, which I did not realize until I started watching Archive 81. Yeah. And I'm like, these guys are fucking killing the genre game. So if you want to hear more, listen to our episode with them because they're really sweet too. Like, they're nice people.
They're so wonderful. They're wonderful human beings.
They're such dorks. And like, that's the best. They're just like film dorks and it's incredible.
One anecdote, I don't know if this made it into the episode, but like when we were very cognizant of their time when we were recording with them and we wanted to give them some time. And so we like were ending a little bit early and like, we still got time. Let's keep chatting. Let's, what do you want to talk about? Like that's just the kind of people they are. And it also made sense why their hair was the way it was when we talked to them, because I think they had like maybe not recently, but they had like filmed this right like before we had talked, because they had done, you know, they did Synchronic and then they did like an episode of Twilight Zone and they kind of did this while in the middle of pandemic and then they got picked up for Moon Knight. So it's like, I don't know. I think they want to keep busy, and I'm really hoping that cadence continues as they get bigger, because I think Moon Knight's going to be huge for them.
It's got Ethan Hawke and Oscar Isaac in it. It's my wet dream.
Mine too.
I don't care about Marvel, but that I will watch.
Have you seen the trailer for it?
Yes, I have. And I'm just like, I don't understand, and I'm very excited. Steve had to explain to me what Moon Knight was. And we went down a rabbit hole of looking at all of his hilarious things he says in the comics because he's such a dickhead. It's incredible. So I'm very excited. And Ethan Hawke is in it, and I love him forever.
Yeah. I'm really like, I'm hoping that they'll keep up the cadence with, you know, if their career trajectory starts, you know, escalating, which I'm hoping it will for them, because they deserve all the respect. I mean, we can't just like force them to make these like small, low budget movies that are indie darlings. But so, I mean, I'm excited for them, but I'm hoping that as they are doing that they will come around and shoot a movie in someone's apartment. Like, you know,
it's ridiculous. I love that kind of cycle of like big things and then a little indie thing just for fun. And then like, because you can tell they do this because they love it. Like, this movie is the two of them loving each other. And it's like, they always fucking hit with representing male friendship, which is something we don't get a lot of. Like, these tender, beautiful male friendships that are like, they're not homoerotic. They're just sweet. And like,
and they're intimate,
but they're intimate.
Like when I was writing my review, I wanted to write intimate, but I didn't want people to take that like as like a sexual thing, because like I think a lot of times people they're intimate, you know, taken in a sexual manner, but like there is intimacy between men that can happen that is not sexualized, that is not homoerotic, and this is what we have between the two of them. And what's interesting to me is that these characters, one of them is gay, and one, in a roundabout way, says that he's asexual. So like you have two queer people in this movie, and that's like, it blew my mind. I was like, oh shit, I can't believe they're doing that.
They're queer, but it's not like the forefront of who they are. It's like dropped in casually in conversation as if like, you know, but it's not like this huge reveal. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like when Justin Benson's character Levi mentions he's asexual, Aaron Moorhead's character John makes a joke, and he's like, "You're really going to compare my sexuality to death?" And then they just move on. And it's just like, it's platonically intimate. It's two guys who really care for each other, who are playing two guys who are just starting to care for each other. And it's just like, the way they are, like, they write those conversations that they have is so impressive. And like, I'm curious if like they're improvised. Like, I feel like you can't write those kinds of things unless you're talking to a really good friend. But like, they just go on these tangent conversations and you feel like you're hanging out with them. And it's just like, but then on top of that, there's weird supernatural shit going on, or paranormal stuff. So it's like, it's cool. I don't know. It's just I think it's an incredible movie.
It's so good.
And I just think they're gonna do good things.
Yeah. I'm so excited for them. It couldn't happen to better people.
Right? Seriously. It's like, oh, thank God they're nice.
Yeah. Seriously.
But then the other one I really love that is very divisive is Resurrection, the new Rebecca Hall movie.
Yes.
That absolutely wrecked my entire ass. Like, I almost had a panic attack afterward.
Oh, no. I understand why. I get it.
So Resurrection, Rebecca Hall is at her fucking A game. Like, this woman is incredible. Like, if there's a theme of Sundance this year, it is incredible lead performances by women. Like, Regina Hall and some others. Like, Regina Hall was incredible. Thandaway Newton was incredible in something I watched. Like, Rebecca Hall is, like, just unhinged queen. So in this movie, she plays a woman who works as like a hard worker, a single mom, and she is like very regimented and like very protective of her daughter. And one day she sees not Eli Roth. Oh my God. It's such a bad mess up.
But it's also kind of a perfect mess up.
It's incredible. Tim Roth, a very different person with a very similar last name. She sees him and she just completely unravels. And it's revealed that he groomed her as a child, she was 18, but a child. And they were in this horrific relationship. She escaped and now he's back and she's completely unraveling. And he also says that he has their dead son inside of him. Yeah. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah.
But this hit me really this hit me on like a crazy level because there's a lot of weird things going on with me right now in terms of like my past. Like, this year marks the anniversary of some fucked up shit, but I'm especially leaving my abusive ex is like, it's the 10-year anniversary of that this year. Which is weird and like kind of fucking bizarre to think about. But this kind of made me think about that. Like, I get so embarrassed when my PTSD fucks me up after 10 years. I think, like, I'm weak. I haven't, like, gotten over it. Like, what's wrong with me? But this movie shows after 22 years, this woman's still fucked up. And, like, that meant a lot to me to see that, like, abuse doesn't just go away. Like, there's no time limit on how you're affected. And you don't know how you're going to react if you see that person. Like, I've seen my abusive ex, and I almost threw up. And, like, I have just been in those situations, like in these exact situations where I just want to like die because this person is here in my life and like I can't, but then you can't stop thinking about it and it's counterintuitive to think about it, but then all you do is think about it. And so just like her trajectory is obviously pretty extreme, but a lot of her beats I 100% identified with as somebody who has been in a very similar situation. I was just like, yeah, fuck. Yeah. And then the end, I was like, fuck yeah. Because it gets really gonzo at the end. Like, we're like, what the fuck?
And that's where it lost me.
Oh, man, I fucking love that ending. I thought it was incredible. But that's just me. But I don't know. I know a lot of people thought it was weird. But for the reasons I just explained, like, it just hit so many personal notes for me in ways that I haven't really seen on screen. But I also loved that experience being taken to a ridiculous extreme because, like, this is a revenge film to me in a way. And, like, seeing that kind of thing done to somebody is just, like, so cathartic, which like, I've talked about a million times. But there's just something for me that's so cathartic in seeing women who have endured similar things, like, getting their fucking come up, like, getting the revenge they want. And, yeah, the end. I don't want to spoil it because it's fucking weird. But it's good. Yeah. I liked it. I
loved 99% of it.
That's
and
fair.
Everything.
That's very fair. The ending is what kind of throws people off. I think it's incredible. I think it's an incredible ending, but I also understand why some people are like, what in the fuck kind of tonal shift is this?
I guess my problem with the ending, and again, I'm going to talk very generic, but like, I spent more time thinking about that than I did what happened immediately after that like brings the movie full circle. And because I was spending more time focused on this little bit of something that I didn't think needed to be in there, instead of thinking about what the metaphor is. You know what I mean? I was more concerned about like the logistics than I was the feeling. And that's because of what happened. And so like that whole moment to me, just like for me, just took me completely out of the movie. But everything you're saying, 100%, 110% agree. If I had seen someone in my past show up, yes, 120,000% agree with you, Hunter. Just that one little moment.
Yeah, I think it captures that.
It does,
really well.
Absolutely.
And like, people are just like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, look, I don't know you, but the way you're talking about this movie makes you think that perhaps you have not been in that situation, which, good. I'm so glad you have not. Like, congratulations. I am very happy for you. But like, people do crazy shit after they've been abused and gaslit for a long time. Like, I did. So, I don't know. I just think it captured that so well. And like, I want to write about that ending because I have so many thoughts about it because I love it. But again, very much understand why it's divisive. But yeah, so those are my two like favorites of the fest. But do you have any other standouts that you wanted to talk about? There's like fucking a million movies I could talk about, I feel like.
I absolutely do. I want to talk about Mr. Riley Stearns' darkly comedic Duel.
Movie rules.
This movie is, for those that don't know, Riley Stearns is the writer and director who gave us, like, back in 2014, Faults. Have you seen Faults?
No, I haven't.
The cult conversion movie. It's a cult deprogrammer who is working with Mary Elizabeth Winstead to try to deprogram her from being from an occult. Her parents hire him to basically get her out of the mindset of being in a cult.
Oh,
really good.
Oh, interesting.
And then back in 2019, did The Art of Self-Defense, which I think is... Have you seen The Art of Self-Defense?
I actually haven't, but that's so funny because Steve and I were just talking about that the other day before I even watched this movie. But I know that Jesse Eisenberg is in it, and it has to do with karate and toxic masculinity.
It does for toxic masculinity what I think Fight Club meant to do before it got sort of like co-opted.
Oh, interesting. I've also heard comparisons with Whiplash. Did you ever see that movie?
I could see that, yeah.
Okay. I've heard comparisons with Whiplash.
This is definitely more in the same bent of Duel, though, in terms of like very, very funny, but for a specific subset of humor, very funny. You know what I mean? Because like Duel, I mean, gosh, Duel is about this. Okay, it takes place a little bit in the future where they clone people.
It's got Black Mirror vibes. It's got like a Black Mirror, pitch black comedy Black Mirror vibes.
And so they clone people when they're dying so that their loved ones don't miss them, is basically what they do. And this woman, played by Karen Gillan, love her, is dying from some rare disease that is terminal. She's going to die. It's in a really funny exchange. The doctor tells her that she has a 0% chance of survival. No, there's 100%. How did it go? I can't even remember.
It was like there's a death rate of 98. You're not going. There's no chance you're going to make it, but there's a 98% chance that you will die. And she's like, but you said it was certain I was going to die. And she's like, oh, there's a 2% margin of error. And she's like, so you what? So they're like going back and forth in this dialogue of like 98% certainty.
But 0% chance you're going to survive.
0% chance you're going to survive, but 98% chance technically for that margin of error. And
so she does it. She does the thing, and boom, there is another Karen Gillan running around, learning to be her. And unfortunately, her boyfriend and her mother like her better than like the clone better than the original. We'll call her the original.
Yeah.
And then she discovers that 2% margin of error, she survives. But because the clone has been alive for 10 months, the 28th Amendment, the new amendment, says that they have to duel to the death to determine...
There cannot be two people, like two of the same person walking around.
And this movie has like, I would say the dialogue cadence of like The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Yeah.
It is deadpan as fuck. It is darkly comedic as fuck, and I was rolling laughing while watching this movie.
I thought it was so funny. A lot of people thought like they didn't like the subject matter, and I was like, I think it's fucking hysterical. Like, you get a clone to replace you, and then your loved ones fall in love with the clone more than you, and then you're just forced to like grapple with being a person who lives in the world whose clone is more loved. And there's a scene. Like, for most of this movie, Karen Gillan is just talking like this. There's no sense of emotion on her face. She just is talking very matter-of-factly. The rare moments where she breaks down are incredible. Like, she's so good in this movie. I love her. Like, she is incredible. And so is Aaron Paul, who plays her self-defense teacher. He's so funny. Like, I wanted more of the two of them. I thought that, like... I thought that the two of them were such a good pair, and their dynamic was my favorite, and I just loved seeing them together on the screen because they just really played well off of each other comedically. I had a great time watching it. I thought it was wild. I thought the story was hilarious, and also they film the duels between clones and people. So there's like a reality TV thing. Like they're in the middle of a football field. And like it just had all these weird little details that like it was obviously sci-fi, but it was like I don't know. It was like believable sci-fi-ish. Also the fact that her clone would inherit her debt for paying off the clone. So the clone has to pay off their own existence. That was also incredible. I don't know, there's just like those little details in the movie that are kind of talked about and not brought up again that you just like, I was like, this is so fucking funny. Like it's ridiculous,
a lot of cool
but it's like
world
incredible.
Building.
A lot of world building. And I really liked that. So I'm glad we both liked it because I've seen some rather
I loved
polarizing stuff.
It's one of my
favorites.
favorites.
It was a good time.
That I saw.
So the other one that there's fucking so many I want to talk about, but the other one I really want to talk about was Piggy.
Okay.
Did you see Piggy?
I did.
Did you not like Piggy?
Not really.
Oh, okay. Fascinating. I'm curious to hear why, because I really liked Piggy.
A lot of people apparently did.
Piggy is about a girl who is fat, and she is bullied by these three girls. And when she sees these three girls get
evil
bully girls, they like drown her in a pool. It's a whole fucking nightmare. But when she sees them getting abducted by a serial killer, she doesn't say anything and just lets them get taken away. And then, it's her kind of grappling with that, but then also having an interesting attraction to the killer. And there's a lot of really interesting stuff going on here. I think the ending is wild. I love the ending. But what I really loved about this movie is there's a fat person on the screen and she's allowed to be fat and she's in a bikini. You see her in her underwear a lot. Like she's not censored which I love. And I think like the whole point, like, you know, she's made fun of because she's fat, but at the same time, like they don't try to hide her body, which I appreciated because fat people are not treated well in movies for a majority. Nope. And she's like wearing a bikini,
2-piece,
exactly, like a small bikini, and like it's incredible because look, fat people can wear bikinis, like it's totally like it's fine. You can show a fat person in their underwear and bra and not have it be weird. And like that was one of the reasons I really enjoyed it, because it let her be fat without trying to like make excuses for it. You know what I mean? Like she's just a person. So why didn't you vibe with it?
I just thought it was boring.
Oh, okay.
I just I liked the beginning. Well, I actually hated the beginning in like a way that you're supposed to hate the beginning, not like I hate this movie. It was like this movie made me feel very angry as someone that has gone through it. Like I remember, and I also really liked this character because I remember going to the pool and wearing my shirt because I was so embarrassed of having my shirt off in the pool. So these kids are fucking cruel. Yeah.
They're not even kids. People are fucking cruel. People are fucking cruel.
And so like there's that aspect of it that like I really like. I was like, I'm vibing with this. And I don't know, I didn't think she was the greatest of an actress.
Oh really? I liked her performance a lot.
I thought she was fine until she had to emote, and then it felt like melodrama. So it just didn't work for me. But I liked the ending. I liked the beginning. Middle section just didn't do it for me.
I also think I think it marks an important kind of movie that will hopefully maybe start some change. Like I know it's a foreign language film, so who knows? But just like having a fat girl be a complex kind of protagonist character, and she's allowed to have catharsis as the main character. I just want more of that.
No, I do too. 100%.
So, this is cool. I think that's like a big reason. I also just think the ending is fucking wild. I wish the movie had more of that wild tone. I did think it was going to be bloodier.
Yeah, I did too.
I will say I wish it was bloodier.
Me too. I wish it was the beginning and the end, and that was it.
Yeah, it was a short. So a lot of people were saying that like it does kind of feel like a short that was stretched out, and I can see that.
There's just not enough in the middle section for me to like hold my head on for 90 minutes. That's really what it boiled down to for me.
But speaking of gory, I did want to also touch on Speak No Evil.
Oh, okay.
Because I also love that movie.
It's good.
It's fucking weird. Everyone makes horrible decisions. It makes me want to scream at my television. It's all about weaponizing politeness.
Mm-hmm.
The ending is horrendous. Like, horrific. If you think about it too hard, it doesn't make a ton of sense, but like, that's fine. It's okay. Like, it's, you know what? It's the kind of weird nihilistic movie that I'm like, I don't need to think about it. Like, I don't care. I just want. And there was another movie that, okay, it's deeply uncomfortable. So basically, a Danish family meets a Dutch family on vacation, and the Dutch family invites the Danes to their house. And they're like, is it weird to go to like we don't really know them, go to their house for the weekend, but it'll probably be fine. And it's like the dad, Bjorn, who's pushing it. And, you know, he really evolves to be quite a piece of shit, I will say. Bjorn is not, it's like, Bjorn's an asshole. But they end up going to the house. And when they get there, it's just like everyone's nightmare. Like the sleeping situation isn't great. The couple is really weird. Their parenting style is weird. Their kid doesn't really speak because he doesn't have a tongue. Like, they're either making out and getting wasted, or they're yelling at their kid, and they're just, and like, what, at one point, the wife is in the shower, and he just, like, the husband of, like, the Dutch guy just walks in and pees. Like, there's just no concept of boundaries, and it is my fucking worst nightmare, and probably everyone's worst nightmare, to be perfectly honest. Like, it is a nightmare scenario, and it just escalates, and, like, pushing the boundaries of how polite somebody can be, and it gets extreme, because you're like, you know, this is how we're expected to act with people that we don't know, and, like, don't confront them about their weird behavior. And when you confront them about their weird behavior, like, you're a dick. And I just really enjoyed it, and it's gross. I just wish the movies this year were grosser. I know that sounds terrible, because, like, a lot of the movies were, like, gross in concept, but I wanted, like, violation cutting up a body, but maybe I'm just fucked up. I think I'm just fucked up.
No, I was thinking about that as I was watching, because one last movie I want to talk about also does a similar thing, but it definitely, I don't know, there's like moments. Okay, what I was thinking about as I was watching these movies, because a lot of the festival website had disclaimers in front, you know, contains graphic violence, yada, yada, yada. And I was thinking about this as I was watching it, because I was thinking back to Fantasia, when a little movie had a lot of trigger word warnings in front of it, and I watched it, and boy, did it like cross those trigger lines and more of the sadness. So we talked to Rob Jabaz about it, but like, I was thinking about that movie, and then I was thinking about these movies about, like, you know, you're putting up warnings about violence and stuff, and I mean, some of it is a little rough. The ending of this movie is rough, but I'm like,
I'm just like, I've seen worse. I'm like, we're fundamentally broken. Where I'm like, no, I want to see you flaying somebody alive. Like, sick girl shit. Like, I just, like,
yeah.
It's not that I didn't like it. I just want more blood. When you put things in the midnight section with that warning, you are setting up my brain for something that's going to be horrendous.
I'm always going to think of the sadness now. You know?
Yeah. And so I think of violation too. Mm-hmm. And like that's a whole other level. It's like different, obviously, than the sadness. They're like horrendous in subject matter. I will say, like, all of those midnight movies are like pushing boundaries. Like, but I'm just like, give me more gore. Tear the bodies apart.
This movie kind of reminded me a little bit in a way of Funny Games.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I was. Funny Games. And then what was the other one that I compared it to? There's
another one that that when I was talking with Joe Lipsett last night, he brought up, I think it's called Drive Through.
Oh.
That was like he was saying that was actually tackled the subject better than that movie did. It's a foreign film. I don't think it's called Drive Through. Like, what's it called? It's like called Curve.
Oh, I said The Strangers and Funny Games is what I compared this one to.
That's not even coming up now, and I don't remember what he called it. Well, maybe it wasn't Drive Through. Shit. Was it Fender Bender?
Fender Bender. When's it from?
I think it's from like 2019. Bumper Cleef.
Bumper Cleef?
That's the foreign language title of it. Tailgate. Tailgate.
Tailgate. Okay.
Jesus Christ. Tailgate. Yes. It's called.
You were so close, though. Like, you were, you were just, like, circling
cars,
around it
like...
so close. You were like, did something with the cars and the fenders.
It's called Bumper Cleef, one word, and it's a cocksure road raging family man finds himself pursued and terrorized by a vengeful van driver he chooses to tailgate.
That's incredible.
Yeah. Anyway, Joe had compared that movie in terms of like the kind of comedy of manners taken to like extreme that this movie that Speak No Evil is also.
Sick. Cool. I'm gonna have to watch that. And Speak No Evil is coming to Shudder, so you guys can watch that one soon. It's very much a Shudder
2013.
movie. So.
Or 2000. God, 2013. Jesus. 2023, I believe. It's not coming out for a while.
Speak No Evil isn't coming till 2023? I also thought I thought that was 2 years away, and then I realized it's not 2 years away because I don't know what time is anymore.
Oh, no, I guess late 2022. So a year from now, probably, almost.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah, so that's coming to Shudder later this year. Whenever it comes to Shudder, you should check it out. If you like kind of fucked up movies about politeness.
Yeah.
And you said there was one more movie.
There's one more movie I wanted to talk about, and that is Fresh. Which, I mean, if you're reading the kind of tagline synopsis for it and you see the title, I mean, I think it's pretty self-evident we're talking about cannibalism here. But it's the way in which it tackles cannibalism. This movie is also very dark. But darkly comedic.
But it's so funny because like it's so dark, but it gives me the Loved Ones vibes. The Prom New Zealand movie because it's like so dark, but the aesthetic is very like 80s, and like Sebastian Stan's character, who is a murderer, is like very Patrick Bateman-esque and is like listening to 80s music and like has an upbeat attitude, and it's just like the tone is very funny for what the subject matter is. Like it's darkly funny.
Yeah.
It has a much brighter aesthetic than you would expect a cannibal movie to have.
Beautifully shot by the cinematographer of Midsommar and Hereditary.
Yep. That's wild.
It's one of those movies that I can't really talk about because I don't want to spoil any of the surprises in it, because it has a lot of surprises, I think.
Yes.
I've seen some people complain, and I think this is a valid complaint, about the sort of black best friend character in this.
Yes, I was not happy with that character.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. I don't. It felt like they were trying to like say something, but it just did not land. I don't know what they were trying to say, but it did have it just didn't really add much to it, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like there wasn't some big moment where she gets like saved by the best friend. I don't know. Just not. But Sebastian Stan in it. Whoo boy.
He's great. I think Daisy Edgar Jones.
Yeah, she's
Noah.
great in it.
I think
too.
She's great.
I feel like so many people are excited about this because they're all Marvel stans and they want to see the Sebastian Stan horror movie. And I'm like, I love when these big names are in these movies because then you're going to get a bunch of like teenagers watching it. And that's how that TikTok shit happens. And everyone's like, have you seen this fucked up movie? And they love it. It is incredible to see how that stuff.
And a lot of people will be able to see this because it's hitting Hulu first week in March.
Yeah, that's wild that Hulu picked this up. I mean, I'm happy about it. It's just funny that Hulu picked it up. Like, again, I think it's Sebastian Stan because I think they know that the people are going to come out for it. Mm-hmm. So I'm very excited to see what online reactions are going to be from the wider public when they see this movie. So
wild.
It's wild. It is very wild.
Also, the only midnight movie I actually stayed up to watch at midnight.
My dumb fucking ass thought it so for me, this was so fucking annoying. I can't believe I fucking did this. So I thought they started at all the midnights for me started at 1:55 because I'm on the East Coast. The first midnights Fresh was the first one, I think, on Thursday, last Thursday, and I thought it started at 2:55. So I wasted an hour, stayed up until 5 in the morning essentially, and then had to get up to work on Friday. I was like, I made a couple mistakes.
My dumbass stayed up too because I wanted to see your reaction as you were watching this movie. So I was staying up to like get the text.
Why are you awake? It's like so late. You have to work too.
No, I was off that day.
Oh,
I've been off.
Never fucking mind.
I would not have watched. No, I would not have stayed up that late if I was working the next day.
I stayed up that late for two more of them, I think. Because I watched Hatching on a screener, thank God. Speak No Evil was a midnight. And then, I can't remember, whatever. But thankfully some of the midnighters were at 11 p.m. my time. And I was like, thank you, Jesus.
I couldn't. I was like, you know what? I could stay up and watch this at 1 a.m. or I could watch the second screening of it and watch it when I wanted to.
That's very valid. I wish I had done more of that. But that's okay. I got to see some cool movies.
That first night just wrecked me.
That first night just like did not set a good tone for me for the rest of the festival. I was like, shit. It is now mostly over. So that's exciting. Another Sundance in the books, everybody. Yeah. And we'll be back to our regularly scheduled programming. Next Little Cuts. Yes,
Next Little Cuts. We are leaving behind the erotic thriller. We did that for almost 3 months.
Jesus Christ.
Time
is fucking fake.
A lot of good stuff.
We saw some good shit.
We saw some weird shit. Saw some sad shit.
Yeah, good God. Why are so many erotic thrillers so sad?
But we are... we're turning away from that, and we are diving straight into folk horror because Shudder has thrown up 40 some odd. Some of them, you and I were talking.
Some of them are not folk horror. I'm just going to say it right now. They're not.
I'm sorry. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is not folk horror. Prevenge is not folk horror.
Like, I would read an essay about why Texas Chainsaw Massacre could be considered folk horror. But for Shudder, I'm not sure. Also, somebody pitched me that article if you're listening to this. Because I would read the shit out of that.
But yeah, so we're going into folk horror. We're not going to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre unless someone is able to write Mary Beth and explain why it is in fact folk horror, and then maybe we'll watch it. But our first movie that we're going to watch is Blood on Satan's Claw, and all of these will be streaming on Shudder, at least hopefully for the foreseeable future. So
that'll be exciting. And I haven't seen that one, and it's like, I feel like that's like quintessential folk horror and like setting up that stuff. So I'm stoked to watch it.
Yeah. And good news is that if you didn't shell out for that $100 and some odd folk horror set, Shudder has a lot, not all of them, but they have a lot of the ones that are in that set on their streaming. They added a lot of them. So hopefully if you have that, you might be able to follow along with us. Otherwise, it's all on Shudder.
Yeah, because I do not have that set yet. So just me and Shudder hanging out.
Who are we talking to on Monday, Mary Beth?
So on Monday we are chatting with Suzanne Kiley. She's a screenwriter, and her credits include Ash vs. the Evil Dead, Leprechaun Returns, and last year's remake of Summer Party Massacre. And we are talking about the Don't Be Afraid of the Dark original TV movie from the 70s.
1973. OG.
1973. Yes, so that'll be exciting.
Speaking of kind of like toxic masculinity, lots of like weird gender dynamic. Well, I say weird because we're watching it from a 2021 perspective, but definitely some 70s gender dynamics and husband-wife dynamics and women not being listened to.
A lot of gaslighting. So it's a great conversation. So look forward to that on Monday. So listeners, you have heard from us, but we want to hear from you. Were you able to catch any of the Sundance films this week and have thoughts? Are there any Sundance films that you're super excited to see when they finally get distribution? You can let us know by sending us an email at scarredforlifepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out to us directly on Twitter. I am at MB McAndrews.
And I'm at Gaily Dreadful.
And of course, don't forget to follow the podcast on Twitter at Scarred Podcast.
And please don't forget to review, rate, and subscribe.
Thank you to Eric Power for our artwork. Thank you to Sean Keller for our music. Thank you everyone for listening. Please stay safe out there, but most importantly, stay creepy.
And until next time.
Somebody
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What is The Briefing Room?
It's a behind-the-scenes look at how the criminal justice system works and the lives of the people within that system.
If you love true crime, well, these are the real people who do the job every day of making sure justice is served.
Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
I'm Detective Dan. Together, we have decades of experience in local law enforcement, a profession that we think is often misunderstood.
So we're going to explore how to do it right, and we won't shy away from when it's done wrong. These are stories you'll hear nowhere else. Unique, frank, and unvarnished.
From the team that brought you Small Town Dicks, this is The Briefing Room. Episode 1 drops on August 30th. We'll meet you in the briefing room.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.